Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Top Voice Tuesday. It is July 22nd, which is hard to believe. Every week I say it's another week, and we're halfway through 2025. I'm so excited to be joined by Tataine Vita, who's going to talk with us about education in the post-AI world. But before we do that, and I'm going to give you a chance, as always, to tell your story. For those of you that are tuning in, please let us know in the chat where you're tuning in from. We love to take questions and comments. And as always, this episode will be up on my YouTube channel later today, Michael J. Lopez 9. And as I've mentioned several times, we are a fully live podcast now on all of the big platforms. So we are excited that we are up and live and up and running. So let's dive in, because this is a conversation after our chat with Corey last week that I'm super excited about. So first, tell us who you are and what you do. And as always, tell us, how did you get to the top of the Top Voice Mountain?
Hello, Michael, and hello, everyone. Thank you so much for this. And first of all, congratulations for this initiative. I started diving in some of your podcasts, and I love it. I've just learned that you started this in January, and probably this is the 30th episode that you launched
Close
this
to
year.
30, yeah, 28, 29, maybe.
Yeah, and you're so pro. This is so
Oh,
like
I don't know
all
about that.
very organized. There is an outline. There are trials and everything. So congratulations for doing this. And I'm Tatiana Vita. Today I serve as the VP of Marketing at CEFA Early Learning, which is a franchise, a school, early years school in Canada. And we've got about 47 schools running today across Canada, and many more to come in the coming years. This excites me to share a little bit of how I got to the Top Voice. To be honest, I'm not sure why they chose me exactly. Probably the numbers at some point made sense to them, but it was a very personal journey from the beginning. So, Michael, my entire life I dedicated to studying and to my career. And when I was about 36, 37, I delayed this as much as I could. I decided to have a baby. And I lost that baby on a trip, traveling to Portugal. I'm originally from Brazil. And in one of those trips, I lost a baby. And that made me awake to the cliffs, to all the challenges that women face at work, and especially the fear that I had to talk about it, to talk to my peers at that trip, or later on to talk about this as well. So I started researching. I'm also a journalist originally. So I started researching about that, and some numbers started to hit. For example, one of them, and the one that really made me start talking about it, was the fact that 67% of women are laid off on the first day after maternity leave in Brazil. And that was a while ago. Those numbers hopefully changed. But then I started looking for more and more evidence of how women are really treated.
Hang tight here, everyone. I think we might have had a quick challenge with Tatiana's internet. Let's make sure she gets back here quickly. You were in the midst of your story.
Yeah, and where did you get
You
it?
were sharing about the statistics of the number of women laid off when they come back from maternity leave.
Yeah, so that really shocked me. And I started looking and diving in. I don't know if you got that part, which is I'm a
Yep.
journalist. So I will be researching for numbers and trying to prove each story and things that I hear, fact proof. And the numbers really shocked me when I started looking into this, not just in Brazil, but around the world. So I started talking about this and taking this into LinkedIn, and in very thoughtful posts, very personal, sharing my own story, and not at all, like I told you, this writing for me. I'm a writer by nature. I do this because I love doing this, and it's not really because of any earnings or any income at the time, not direct income. So sharing that journey with the LinkedIn audience resonated, and a lot of people really started to follow that that story, women sharing with me their personal
Mm.
challenges as well when they came back to work. And then that became public. I was invited for a TEDx. Many things came after that. I also was awarded Women Emerging Leaders by Santander and the London School of Economics, and so many other things started happening because I started sharing a story that really resonated. And many years later, fast forward here in Canada, I started sharing again, but now in English. And then LinkedIn really noticed, and it
Mm.
noticed all the numbers, the algorithm at some point really hit. And in 2024, start of last year, I was invited to become a LinkedIn top voice. And of course, I really, really feel privileged to have the space, to have the platform, and I'm very mindful of how to use it. So my audience are leaders, and hopefully a lot of women leaders who are, struggling and trying to break the glass, that invisible
Yeah.
glass barrier there is to the top. And I try and bring, and I'm always thinking of my audience, not myself, just what I want to share, but what would be important for them to hear as they are growing in their career and growing their voices to really get to the top of companies as well.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm sorry for the loss that you experienced. I know that that happens to many women, and it is a very personal experience and one that is quite formative in terms of your life and your experience and your point of view. And as a man, I can't relate to that at the same level, but I've been through some of those experiences as a husband, and I understand what that means. And so I hadn't known that until you shared that story, so thank you. And we're friends now and connected on Instagram, and I see the photos of your family, and I can only imagine how much it means to you now where you are, having come from where you did. So thank you for sharing that with everyone. I know that's deeply personal. And I would say that, in the story of these journeys we've heard from people, one of the things that people come through a lot is they didn't start with a plan. They started with sharing something very personal or with a purpose, something I wanted to talk about. And it's just such a genuine and authentic side of you that comes out. And so thank you for sharing that story. And for people who are trying to figure out who they want to be on LinkedIn, take your inspiration from this conversation, because truly it really is such a personally beautiful story. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Michael. That means a lot.
You're
My
welcome.
family is everything now.
I know. I can tell. I can tell.
Yeah.
So I wanted let's jump into this conversation, because now we're talking about education. And as a writer and as a researcher and as someone who now works in this field, last week we talked to Corey, and he gave us the big picture. And I actually got a question from someone when I sent out the invitations to this. Are we really in a post AI world? Well, maybe not. We're still in the early stages, but let's talk about education and learning. So when you think about the goals of traditional education, how well do they hold up with what's happening here? Because so much of our educational system is kind of based on memorization, and now we don't have to really do that. So let's just talk about the structure of education for a moment.
Yes, let's do that. And I really reimagined a school, and that school is very close to our CEFA, our CEFA classes. So at CEFA, and that stands for Core Education and Fine Arts, we are always ahead and thinking, a step ahead. How do we implement the new ways of thinking, or what our children, as the future leaders of the world, what is it that they will need to be exposed to at this early age to get to that? So our classrooms, I would say, they look more like studios, and
Mm,
the teacher is more of a facilitator of knowledge, instead of someone who instructs, in the sense that they tell children that blue is blue and red is red, and that's it, and there is no
mm,
conversation around that. But how this plays about in one of our CEFA classes, and this is already, and it's always been like that, but this is already forward thinking, and it really resonates now in a post AI world, because the children start from the beginning to ask better questions,
Mm.
good questions, and come to the answers themselves. And what changes really here now is that, and we were talking about that, I'm a journalist, I've always been, my memory is very much like an elephant's memory, and that always helped me. But then I don't know why that's the case. And at some point with COVID and with, not lack of sleep after I became a mother, my memory has, suffered a little bit. But now with AI, I don't need to remember so much. There is, like a pig bank of memory, and
Yeah.
I don't need to remember all the facts, such as which were the presidents of Brazil for, forever since we became a republic, or things like that. So memory doesn't play a game anymore, because there is someone you can always, and it's a companion. So I was just having a look, and I'll drop in this conversation later on a chart that I saw how people are using AI. So before we started using it for technical reasons, but now 31% of people, at least in 2024, started using AI as a companion, meaning a mentor, meaning a coach for the questions nobody has time to give us anymore. Or it's a safe space where I can be trying, I can make mistakes, and I won't be judged. So this is already how we are using AI, and we are going to use AI more and more like that. So it doesn't hold up well, Michael, I would say. I would say that, and I'm very happy about that, that CEFA is already leading in that sense, because it's already ready for this type of critical thinking and emotional development, and the so-called soft skills that for me, they're nothing soft. They are the hard ones, the most difficult ones to acquire, because the technical might be, that you try 10 times and then you learn, but the emotional ones, you need to be trying in the real world and, suffering as you learn how to become emotionally balanced. Let's say this is one of them, a big one. So I was having a look at, and we were talking about this earlier as well. MIT has just released a ChatGPT. How does ChatGPT is changing our cognitive memory and all of that. And one of the findings and the takeaway is that if you delegate everything to AI, what is going to happen is it's going to think for you, and your own cognitive reasoning will, you will lower in that sense, because you're not using it as much. So you're delegating that completely. The machine is learning, the machine will get better, and you will get dumber.
Yes.
Sorry for the word, but that's
Perfect.
exactly what is happening. And we were talking about this as well, in the sense that we need to think of evolution. And this is how evolution happens. If we delegate the critical thinking, if we delegate the things that make us human and made us, be the ones, the most intelligent beings in the whole planet, if we delegate that because we're lazy, or because we don't want to think, or because any other reasons, it's just cheaper, or it's just faster, it's just easier, it's just, it could be taken as laziness. And yes, we could be creating something that will be not just more intelligent in the way that it will solve more problems, but it will also, at some point, I'm delegating leadership to this thing, this new thing we're creating, that will be able to make decisions for itself in a foreseeable future. Some people
Yeah.
say in 5 years, some people say in 10 years. So this is happening right now. There are some that you already delegate and they go delusional, and they will be the ones deciding for us. So education will have to up in the educational field. All of us and the industry will have to level up the game.
Yeah.
And the game is no longer memory. Nobody needs that in a sense, but everybody needs to know what are the rules, because organic intelligence or science has a methodology, and this inorganic intelligence has no methodology. Who says it's right or wrong?
Right.
So for anything to be proved in science, there is a whole
Structure. Yeah.
academic structure of people validating that, many people validating that. And sometimes at some point, even some things that were proved to be right will be proved to be wrong, because
Yeah.
there is more evidence, there is more. Now, when intelligence comes, or fact, like reasoning comes from inorganic sources, who says it's right or wrong?
Yeah.
Who
Yeah.
went there to try it out?
So let's go
That's the
back a
question.
second, because I want to address something you said,
Mhm.
which I agree with. Number one, soft skills are the hardest things there are to learn. And if it's not about memory anymore and it's about those kind of skills, let's take an example, because I've seen many articles about college students. I know we're talking about early learning, but I want to use this
Mhm.
example,
Mhm.
being affected by, or maybe being told by their professors not to use chat gpt because the professor wants the student to struggle with the material. But we see all these articles of professors using chat gpt for lesson plans, for reviewing papers. Talk to us about that conflict, because there's a real educational incentive there, which is I've built a lesson plan, and I have a structure, and I have a methodology, and I have a course outline, and I'm expecting the students to follow it. But now I as a professor, am not modeling the same behavior I'm expecting my students to follow.
Oh, right. Okay. I'll take that from a personal perspective, Michael, and I hope I have that space
Of
now
course you do. Yeah.
with a few followers and a few people really trusting my judgment in the sense that everybody will have to evolve. This is not a joke. If you don't evolve right now, you are going to be left behind.
Yeah.
Even those teachers that think, well, no, I won't be using this new technology. And I say that based on the fact that, number one, this is not a tool. This is not just a tool.
Mm.
Like humans, we create pen and paper, we created the knife. At some point
Right.
things changed. We created so many tools, and what a tool does is whatever I would like it to do. At some point, this thing we're creating will be able to decide, and to decide for itself. So one of the things that I've been reading about, Michael, and this is one of the books that I read recently, and I talk about that on LinkedIn as well. My recent post is about that. If you would like to check it out, it's called Genesis. So we are giving birth to something completely different from everything we did before. Now, how can a teacher in its in its how would I say that, but healthy mind, tell you not to be exposed to this or not to understand what this is, when they are the ones also using it, for sure, because it does make the work better, faster, smarter. So no, there is no way our teachers, for example, and we are piloting that already, and we are seeing, it's just that we need to understand and think about it.
Mm.
Where do I take this? So
Yeah.
first of all, our teachers are the ones leading everything, and they will always be. This is number one. Teachers lead. Why? Because of judgment. So one of the studies that were recently published as well on ChatGPT and everything is that consultants, when they started using that, productivity spiked 40%.
Mm.
Amazing. So productivity wise, amazing. Now, when they started really analyzing the results, whenever there was judgment and they just delegated judgment, it decreased 19%.
Oh.
So what a consultant has, and you are a consultant yourself, I'm a consultant myself. What we do is we tap into our experience of having seen that happen hundreds of times.
Yeah.
AI does not have that. It hasn't built it themselves. So like if you have a look at my professional life, I was part of a team that scaled the brand from 100 stores to more than 1,000 worldwide. That type of 10 years traveling the whole Brazil and the world, and all of that, and all the cultures, everything that I learned, AI hasn't experienced that. So everything it knows inorganically from many statistics and things, but
Yeah.
it hasn't lived it itself. So the experience is what is the key. And for that teacher, and this is what we are doing right now, we understand AI. So the AI can teach. AI, let's put it simply, AI teaches the treadmill. Go on velocity 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 4. That
Right.
it can create you a sheet to learn how to run on a treadmill. Now the coach, the mentor, the teacher is the one who learns and who knows, because they did it themselves, how to teach a student the marathon. How do you prepare emotionally for a marathon?
Yeah.
What are the scenarios? What are the problems that could happen? And how do you solve them? Because I did it myself and I know my body, and this is what worked for me.
Yeah. So we have, and maybe this is more of an American thing or a thing in the United States, although I would say that there's a lot of controversy right now about the American education system and certainly the presidency and the Department of
Hmm.
Education, and there's quite a bit of conversation around that.
Hmm.
What I observe about the American perspective on education is if it's a system built on memory, it's because it's easier to measure the effectiveness of outcomes when it's a light switch. Did you remember that fact? Yes or no? Did you answer the question? Yes or no? And so we have things like my kids are always telling me about their state testing and here's my score and and we can look across the population, but you're describing something that is so much more nuanced and experiential. We have like Montessori school in the US is kind of a thing. I think CEFA is probably built on that same sort of principle. So how do we redesign this system if we know that it needs to be more experiential? But this journey of AI isn't done. We don't even know where we're going to end up. So how does the education system start to move?
Right. So we're starting with pilots. So one of the pilots right now, and I can't disclose much about it, but as an assistant, AI is very helpful to help children and us really gain concept, because one thing is what the dialogue and the conversation that goes in the classroom with your teacher. Later on you will have to try it on your own for many times for you to really learn. So the tools that we are creating, one of them, or we are using right now and piloting in a few of our schools, is helping the child stick a concept, learn a concept,
Mm.
because they will play and it will introduce the idea, and they will play and the tool will learn if they are getting it or not,
Oh,
and
interesting.
will take it back again, try again, but not the same way, in many different ways.
Wow.
So that is like a tutor, right? So you have a mentor, you have a coach, and you have a tutor, someone that helps you, and it's a safe space for you to be trying things on your own pace, because people don't learn in the same speed. People are different. People learn in uh, different speed and different ways, and some are kind of static, some are
Right.
they will learn with words, some will learn with sports and their bodies, and others. So children and people learn differently, and when you have AI can help you try and test. And Michael, have you had the experience of having a teacher ask you a question and how did you feel about missing the right answer?
Yeah, we don't like mistakes. That's part of something I write about a lot. It's sort of interesting when you ask that because mistakes are the single largest contributor to the opportunity for neuroplasticity, right? A mistake signals to your brain that something needs to be different. But what I hear you saying is our educational system is designed to not make mistakes. It's about being right with
Yep.
facts and data. And what I think you're describing, and maybe this is a skill set or a mindset shift, is moving from memorization to curiosity and experimentation. That's kind of what I hear you describing.
Exactly. And now, like, what the big game and the other pilot that we are running, one of the other pilots that we are running, is to expose children to various languages. So this window is the window of opportunity for
Yeah.
a human being. which is from 0, from being born to 6.
Yep.
So this is when you are completely open for anything anybody brings to you. So this is like the golden age of a
Yep.
human being. So at this age and at this stage, children need to be exposed to everything we feel will help them in the future to be better human beings. So one of the things are arts, other things that yoga, and how do you,
Right.
treat your mind, how do you deal with your mind and all the questions that you have. So this is another one. And then children at this very age can start listening to 3, 4 languages. My 4-year-old is bilingual, and he's learning. He speaks Portuguese, English, just like apps. He switches it immediately, and he's been
Yeah.
doing this for a while now. But now he's also speaking, because we are in Canada, so everyone is from different, and this is beautiful, from different countries, from different places. And he also speaks a little bit of Spanish. His father is French. His grandparents are originally French as well. So he also is learning French at the same time. He doesn't say, no, I don't want to learn a new language. He just wants to try it out
He
because
just
he's
tries
not
it.
afraid of trying at
Yeah.
all.
And what your son is building is the neural pathways for learning language. It's not that he's just learning Portuguese or English or French. He's actually building a neural pathway for adaptable language learning. And that is one of those things that is sort of so unique about that window of time for young kids. And so this is why this is so important. And as you were telling me that, and I realized we're jamming, we're almost done here. So
No,
we have to get to the end.
right.
Is I watch my 1-year-old, and we talk about screen time, and we talk about the impacts of technology on kids, but uh, my baby learns how to use a phone just through observation of people around her. And it's such an organic experience. I think part of what I hear you saying also is, rather than look at that as some sort of terrible experience, and I know that there's negative consequences, but if this is the technology of our time, we've got to figure out how to bring that technology together with the learning experience and make it something that contributes positively, rather than just, watching Miss Rachel all the time, which I guess there's nothing wrong with because she's very popular, right? That's kind of what I hear you saying, is how do we marry the technology with the experience to help people learn, rather than treating it as some sort of, giant brick wall between these two, and we're just going to stick with memorizing facts.
Amazing that you brought this, Michael, because I agree with you. Liam, my son, he speaks to Siri since he was 2 years old. And the questions that he asks, and Siri is becoming better. So
Mm,
it starts answering some of these really existential questions that he has. Like, he asks about the weather, he asks about things that I would never thought of asking Siri, if she likes this or that song, or play
yeah.
that song to me. And it's just like a companion. And this gives birth to the thoughts that this is what is happening already, and is coming more and more. So
Yeah.
AI is becoming that partner for anything you need, you want to do. And it's important that children, and another thing, I think we haven't talked about the risks, and there are so many risks that can't be overlooked. Of course, I take everything positively. It's also like my mindset, but at the same time, I also heard a friend's daughter who was about 10 years old. At some point, we were talking about ChatGPT, but at the beginning, like in 2022, 2023, and we said, I was just mentioning that it made a mistake.
Hmm.
Well, actually, a fact. It just said, and because I studied history for so long and everything, and I needed to know facts, I know the fact. And I said, no, that's absolutely wrong. ChatGPT, you need to review this and give me a fact-based source, and to talk about this. And then it went all, like, at the beginning, it was all delusional. It still is, but it. And then but she looked at us being very shocked, she said, no, it doesn't make mistakes. It's not
Mm,
wrong.
yeah.
So we also need to talk about misinformation and how a tool that produces inorganic knowledge and was based on our own kind of intelligence can be delusional, because human beings can be as delusional as it gets. So, I was hearing today in the morning, a dog or a horse or a pig, it won't get as delusional. I won't
Right.
believe
Right.
some of the things we as human beings do believe. So
Right.
there are many risks, and we need to also teach children, but everyone, to be skeptical at some point and to trust their own judgment, because there is the other part in this book in Genesis. Eric Schmidt talks about that a lot, which is we might at some point feel that it knows better than us in every sense of the way, like
Right.
in every way it knows better, it's better. So where am I in this whole thing?
Yeah.
I don't
There,
know as
there's a
much anymore. I feel like I don't feel smart anymore.
right. Right.
And
There's a question in the chat, and I want to read that question, but I also, because of the way that the bonus question from last week was left for you, is very relevant to
right.
this conversation, and so I want to ask it now and pair it with the question that we see in the chat. We'll kind of use this as a way to wrap up. First of
Mm.
all, what I hear you saying is the question is: do you believe that AI can reach true sentience in that respect of the word and act as if they are approximating or being human beings? Do you
Mm.
think AI can reach that level? And if it can, then what's left for us? What are the skills that are left for us to learn? And I'm hearing a couple from you, but I'll give you the word here to answer that question.
I would say we are not there yet, but this is what it's coming when it's able to decide for itself. So right now with the agents, with generative intelligence, inorganic intelligence, what happens is we still have a lot of control. We're still the ones asking, prompting, but again, asking and giving it the directions, the rules, giving feedback on the spot. You're completely delusional. That's not
Right.
what I wanted to say. Like, well, this is not happening at this minute. But now when it gets to a level where one tool knows more than all human beings that have ever existed, because it has all that memory and it has been trained for that, and then it starts impersonating us and doing things for us, and then we start delegating that, well, you can decide now, you know what I think, you can decide. And then it starts, and this is what in Genesis they talk about a lot, which is when it starts getting to the point that you delegate completely the decision making. Reason, like, humans are not mathematically or we are not reasoning in this way, but that's exactly how it's reasoning. So mathematically there are more rats in the world than humans. So at some point, why are rats not more important than humans? And then what changes completely when, what if it starts to think like that and make the decisions to enforce that in a way that we can't go back? So we are not there yet. We could get there. And that's why all these people, because what strikes me is that all these people who created it from 1970, the godfather of AI, everyone, when he won last year a Nobel Prize,
Yep.
please go check it out. Listen to what he had to say. He said, amazing things can happen if this is taken in a way that it's used by everybody, shared equally, all beautiful. Now it could go, and we have no idea if that will happen or not, very sideways and do things complete like that are out of our reach, of we can't even understand. And that's the part that is obscure, that we
Yep.
should absolutely be aware of. So it's not there yet, Michael. It could be, and
Yeah.
it could be beautiful, amazing, and dangerous at the same time.
I was listening to a podcast, and I'm going to give you the last word in just a moment. I was listening to a podcast yesterday on my flight back, and part of the conversation was about a question that was asked in 1911 from a scientist about, is there the existence of a neutral proton? It was a scientific question being asked, and that question led to the development of the atomic bomb 30 years later, and has created the nuclear arsenal that we have today. Now, at the same time, it's created fission on planet Earth, which allows us to have nuclear power, and those are all good things that help fuel society. But to your point, it sort of depends on what you do with it. And I think what you're saying is in 1970, right, we kicked the ball down the hill, and we are now starting to see that acceleration of this technology and where it ends up. And what I'm hearing then is what's left for us are things like learning how to ask better questions, curiosity, skepticism, judgment, thinking, experience. These are things that we still have the ability to lean into and control and use AI as a companion. This has been a great conversation, and I really just can't thank you enough for sharing your story and for sharing all your experience. Tell us where people can find you, and if you have an offer for them as you're going forward. I know you've built something special for this episode and for people to access going forward.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Michael. I would add to that leadership, the way that we know it, the way that we experience it, is one of those skills that we should not delegate. As a leader, we should at all times be thinking, what should I delegate at this time? So I have time to do the things that I can't delegate, which are decision making, critical thinking, vision, and working on a strategy. And that is the piece that I would absolutely never delegate to AI if we would like to be the ones leading or riding the wave and leading it, instead of being the ones who will just be followers, and because this is a very dangerous journey. So you can find me on LinkedIn and Instagram. Mostly I am Tataine Vita, and I also created a LinkedIn newsletter. I'll start posting next month in August, but it's already live. So if you would like to join us and subscribe, it's leading at the age of AI, a new newsletter. One of the things that really helped me gain a lot of interest on LinkedIn are my newsletters today, with more than 220,000 subscribers. Check it out. Thank
Amazing.
you so much, Michael.
Yeah, I will put that in the chat link and in the post, and it'll be on all of the podcasts that we put. We'll have that link there, and I'll share it out in my newsletter as well this week. Thank you so much again. This has really been great, and thank you for sharing such a personal story to start this conversation, and then giving us a real understanding about how education is adjusting in this moment and what's left for us in the future of AI. Thank you so much, and we will see you next time. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Michael. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.